Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to the show. Today, what do we have on the chopping block? Let's talk about alcohol in terms of fat loss. Does it stop fat loss altogether? Does it make your body go into fat storing mode? All of these different things. I think the best way to understand if alcohol can or should be a part of you reaching your goals and a part of that journey, and for how long, how much. I think it really comes down to starting with a basis of understanding of what alcohol is in terms of how your body sees it physiologically and how that's going to actually show up in your results and what you can do to mitigate that. So let's back it up a little, okay? So alcohol, much like carbs, protein, and fat, it's a macronutrient. So carbs and protein have 4 calories per gram. Fat has 9 calories per gram. Alcohol is going to be somewhere in the middle, so it has 7 calories per gram. This is also why you'll see nutrition labels that only have 2 grams of carbs on a beer, and that's all that's in it. And it's, okay, well, there's only 4 calories in every gram of carbs. This should be an 8-calorie drink. No, the remainder of that caloric content is coming from alcohol, but they don't have to put that on the nutrition facts. I've had several people think that clear liquor does not have calories. It most certainly has calories. It's not water, so and that's really great news because we can work with calories. If you've listened to this show, you have a decent understanding of how calories work within the body. We know that if we're trying to lose fat, we have to burn more calories than we're taking in. Calories from alcohol are not an exception by any stretch of the imagination. This should still be built into your day. If you are someone that tracks macros, that could look like for a 100-calorie beer, you are getting rid of 25 grams of carbs in place for that beer because that would equal about 100 calories. And if you're not a person that tracks, that's totally fine. We're going to talk about a lot of more actionable strategies towards the end to go over the day you're drinking. What does the lead up look like? What do you eat? So as long as we have an understanding that alcohol does have calories, it's important to understand going into everything else I'm about to tell you that this is not an exception to the calories in versus calories out rule. So I dug around. I wanted to look at different studies on alcohol and body composition and just essentially the relationship between the two. Tons of studies came up. I am picky, to say the least, about what studies I tend to pay attention to. And if you're ever wondering, like, is this study legit? Understand where the funding came from and or who that lab is associated with, who owns them, and you'll start to understand maybe which ones are a little bit more biased. When I look these things up, I tend towards things like PubMed, I tend towards university studies, things like that. And then I came across this review. So this review is a collection of studies. So a meta-analysis, a review, it's essentially taking a bunch of studies that were done. It's taking the findings of all of those studies, essentially verifying that all of them are legit, they were all conducted properly, and then using all of those different conclusions together to then create new conclusions. So what these studies found is that alcohol will decrease muscle protein synthesis. It will decrease testosterone. It can negatively affect sleep. It can impair performance, and it can increase fat mass. Not great, but bear with me. This is a direct quote from the review. Additionally, alcohol does not seem to impair fat loss when calories are accounted for. That is a very, very, very important sentence. Additionally, alcohol does not seem to impair fat loss when calories are accounted for. Things that does not mean. It will help your results. It will make you feel good. It will make you motivated and feel up to doing things like working out and making the right decisions the following day. None of those things. Purely, if your caloric intake is still in balance of losing weight, aka you are eating less than you are burning total, you will still lose weight. I want you to think of it more as you're going to get less out of everything else you do. So you have to do everything else better. If you are going to be a person that drinks and you still want to lose fat, let's go through these one by one. How do we mitigate them? Decreasing muscle protein synthesis. If you worked out that day, all that means is that the muscle repairs that your body has to make in order to improve, in order to get stronger, in order to adapt in how you build muscle, and you're able to move more weight the next time, that process is going to downregulate. Your body is going to be busy getting rid of the toxins. So every effort is going to be sort of pushed in that direction of clearing out the alcohol from your system as efficiently as possible. And things like recovery are going to go to the wayside. So you will still get something out of the workout. I'm sure you recovered in some manner, but you'll essentially get less out of it. Honestly, most of the things on this list decrease in testosterone. Testosterone not only directly aids in muscle protein synthesis, so if we're down regulating it on top of that, that's not great, but testosterone is also a very motivating hormone. It's one of those get shit done hormones. So we're downregulating testosterone. Everything else that testosterone does within the body and helps with is also going to be downregulated. Negatively affects sleep. I mean, this is probably the most significant. Sleep is so wildly important. I cannot stress it enough. Joe Rogan has a phenomenal episode with the person that wrote Why We Sleep. His name is not coming to my head right now. It is a very easy to understand explanation as to why your body is legit an iPhone. Like, you're dead if you don't charge. You just simply don't work. If you're trying to get a lot out of your efforts from the gym and all of that, you're not going to see your body doing those repairs at the same rate. That's going to slow down recovery, aka you see less results. This is all kind of within the theme. So it's not shocking. One of the last things on the list, impair performance. All of these things are going to impair your performance. It's also going to make it so when you would have gotten stronger from that last workout, that incremental faster, that incremental whatever, maybe you don't get that. So the next workout, when you would have been able to push a little bit harder, you're not doing that. You're sort of back where you were. And that's okay. But my job is not to tell you this is worth it, this is not. My job is to make you understand how this is going to affect your journey, and then you can make the decision, is the trade-off worth it, right? There's no like wrong answer here. It's more so, is having champagne at this wedding that's a huge deal and you're going to remember forever with your family, blah, blah, blah. Is that worth it? Yeah, maybe. And then, well, is just going to brunch with the girl or just going down the street with the guys, is that worth undoing results? Maybe it's not, but I'm not you. So you have to figure out what inputs are worth the outputs you'll get and where that line is. So let's talk about, if we are drinking, what do we drink? So say you are going to drink, what are the best options? What's the best way to do this, right? Lucky for you, I was a bartender for years. So I have made a skinny version of every single drink on the freaking planet. Spirits with a 0-calorie mixer. Amazing. Gin, vodka, whiskey, anything like that with a 0-calorie mixer is going to be a really good start. A whiskey and diet, a vodka and soda, light beers and dry wines. These are usually going to be around 100 calories per serving. That's where we want to be aiming. But your typical Coors Light, Bud Light, all of those. I get this question constantly, like, can you make a healthier version of my drink, a skinny version of this drink, whatever. I'm going to give you the top 10 drinks that my clients tend to ask about the most and how to order a skinny version of them real quick. Skinny margarita, lime juice, OJ, splash of agave. If you want a mojito, ask for less syrup, extra mint and lime, and sparkling water. Old fashioned, if you can order it without the sugar, or asking if they have a 0-calorie sweetener. Whiskey sour, ask for it with lemon juice and stevia, or 0-calorie sweetener again. Cosmopolitan, ask for lime juice and diet cranberry juice if they have it. You can swap out gin and tonic for diet tonic or soda water. Rum and Coke, use diet soda. Pina colada, one of my favorites, one of the harder ones to make, very similar, but if the bar has it and can do it, do rum, fresh pineapple juice, coconut milk. Ooh, it's amazing. Bloody Mary, if you like to drink your ketchup, good for you. Tomato juice, spices, lemon, ask them to omit any of the sweeter mixes. Espresso martini, get it without the Baileys. I know it's a big hot one right now. And if none of those are super appealing to you, some general guidelines. Frozen is gonna have usually the most calories, the most sugar. It's gonna be dense. Like, those things can be 750 calories a drink. I would avoid if you can. Anything with full calorie soda, that's obviously going to be a bit higher in calories as well. We want to essentially avoid anything that looks like we'd get it in the Bahamas, you know? So you've decided to drink, you're raging tonight, let's fucking go. I beg of you, do not do the thing that everyone does. This is not a unique experience. It is everyone's first instinct. I will not eat anything leading up to XYZ event where there will be drinks and food, and then I will show some unfounded amount of self-control despite not having eaten all day, and I will stick to a reasonable amount of drinks, and I will not maul the dessert table. What a fucking terrible plan. That's a terrible plan. That is the worst plan. How are you going to go into an event feeling like you could eat a goddamn couch cushion and then not have the thing that tastes the best? That doesn't make any sense. What we want to do instead, prioritize protein and veggies leading up for that day. No, you probably don't need the extra this and the extra that leading up, but still eat meals. Going into this starving is the absolute worst thing you can do, because even if you do show a bunch of self-control, after you're drinking, you want to know the thing that really gets people? It's not the 2 vodka sodas they had. That's not going to ruin a week of progress. What happens is it's the 3rd vodka soda and then the pint of mac and cheese with your friends, and then you got pizza, and then, oh, well, now we're all in the morning and we want to make McDonald's because it's already fucked anyway, and so on and so forth until your progress is gone. And it happens really, really fast, where all of a sudden you've been off track for much longer than anticipated when it was only supposed to be those 2 drinks. It is far more often that I see this be the case of why alcohol is impairing progress rather than the actual alcohol itself. So aside from eating a regular meal, hydration leading up is going to be so important. And not just so you don't get hungover. Yes, it is much harder to make good decisions when you're hungover, but even aside from that, the corny rule of every single drink should be followed by a water is corny and cliche because it works. You will feel less shitty, you will have a more even drunk, and you're not gonna feel that crazy amount of hunger, especially if you're a person that gets the drunk munchies. It's not haha munchies, it is starving right now. If you are dehydrated, the chances of feeling like you're starving go way up. So drink a fair amount leading up and then follow every alcoholic drink with a water. It's going to help you pace. There's literally no downside. If you're a person that is more like me, I also hate having to do the weird explanation because you really shouldn't have to explain yourself, but we all live in reality instead of a vacuum. You can go up to any bar and order a soda water with a lime in a rocks glass. They're going to give you what looks like a cocktail with no alcohol in it. It's going to be so inconspicuous, no one's going to ask, and that's sort of the zero conflict way to go about it. Another way is if you're going a place where it's a barbecue or something where it's BYOB, carrying around liquid death water. It's just a brand, but it's a canned water. It looks a lot like a beer can. I carry those around all the time and everyone just thinks you're drinking. Again, it's just sort of the assumption that everyone makes. And if you don't want to have to explain yourself, that's a solid option. I also recommend telling people to go fuck themselves. I think that's great too. I think it's very important to state that this is a spectrum. This is not yes or no. Should I drink on my fat loss journey? I don't know. Is your goal very aggressive? Are you training for something? Are you looking for extreme results? Are you looking to get every single bit of results after every single piece of effort you put in? Alcohol is probably not a puzzle piece for you right now, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be forever, but if you're in a more intense phase, it's kind of just going to slow you down. I don't really think the trade-off is worth it. My athletes don't drink. Nothing about drinking is going to make anything better per se. Any results you get may be in spite of alcohol and you may do it in spite of alcohol, but it's not going to make it easier. However, if you're just trying to be healthier and you're trying to create habits that you can sustain long term, figuring out the occasions that it is worth it for you to drink, that you really do want to partake, you don't want to miss out, figuring out what those occasions are and really committing to not drinking at any other occasions, not just one, not blah, blah, not drinking, fully not drinking. A lot of people see really solid results just from that shift. So can you drink alcohol and lose fat? To kind of conclude this, I want to go back to this review and the final findings that they found. So this is directly from that review. The primary findings indicated that regular consumption of alcohol around 0.5 grams per kilogram of body weight resulted in increases in cortisol, decreases in testosterone, decreases in plasma amino acids, and rates of protein synthesis. This equates to somewhere around 3 to 4 drinks for an average 70-kilo male. So if you are having 1 to 2 drinks every now and then, you really should see no negative effect. However, if you're drinking more heavily in that 3 to 4 drink area or above, and you have really intense goals, it may be time to decide where that trade-off is going to lie. I always tell people you can have it all. You can do whatever you want. There's nothing that is in particular off limits, but you can't have everything all at once. You can't have the milkshake and the wine and the burger you have to pick a struggle. You can't want to drink and want to eat whatever and not want to exercise. You got to pick a struggle. We can work with any struggle, but we have to pick one. And I think that there's a lot of power in that. Don't take that as a bad thing. If you love to drink, there's so much power in knowing that you can absolutely include it within your diet. You're just going to have to tighten up on other things. That's it. There's always a trade-off, but there's no moral wrongdoing in making one decision or the other. It's more understanding this input creates this output. This is what I'm going to do. And that's it. I think that there's this deep-seated fear of a lack of control, especially within weight loss. It's not, oh my gosh, I'm so scared of gaining 5 pounds. It's, I'm unsure that if I gain 5 pounds, I know how to lose it. And that's really scary, especially if you've worked really hard for your results. And I can understand that. But we also cannot expect our body to perform miracles. If we're not treating it great, it's not going to produce great results. If we're doing exceptionally well at sticking to our diet and exercising and all of that, it's going to provide us with exceptional results. You are always going to be a product of what you do on average. So if on average you're kicking ass, you're not drinking, you're hitting your workouts, you're eating well, your progress is going to show that. If on average you're acting like a child in a candy store with no discipline, your results are going to show that too. And that's why people love anabolic steroids and Ozempic. If I can leave you with any advice for incorporating drinking into any sort of health and fitness journey, prepare everything surrounding your drinking as best as you possibly can. Prepare a healthier snack if you know you're going to eat when you get home. Put your clothes out so you do go for your walk in the morning. Have a water by your bed. Whatever you need to do to keep the damage, quote unquote, to just the time you were drinking and not all of the surrounding time that then gets sort of sucked into it. And now is also delaying your results. We want to isolate the drinking and we want everything else to be as normalized as possible. If you can prepare to do that, it is very easy to fit a couple of drinks into a fat loss plan and still get great results. I've had countless clients do it. I think the exceptions in my brain are performance-based athletes and people with very, very extreme goals. That's it. I wanted to give you guys a little bit of a personal update if you have stayed this long. There's something about my podcast listeners that is different. I don't have a huge following on really any other platform. My podcast is by far my biggest platform, but I have a connection with you guys that I feel a little bit more trust or something. There's something there. And this is the first time I'm trying to verbalize it now that I have more of a handle on what has been going on with my health. I feel that talking about health and fitness and giving all of this advice, there's this inauthenticity within the fitness industry that I never want to contribute to. For the past couple of years, my health really took a turn for the worst. And for a very long time, I had no idea why. I could not figure it out. About 2.5 years ago, I started getting some really awful symptoms. For those of you that have listened to the show, you know that I owned a gym. You know that I had just taken it through a pandemic. It was such a stressful time for everybody in their own ways, and for me, it was no different. I had a gym that I had to pay rent on that I couldn't be open. And I attributed a lot of the initial symptoms of anything being wrong at all to just being anxious. And I just thought that that's what anxiety was. And I thought, oh, I must be an anxious person now. Admittedly, the extremity of the symptoms I ignored, I think that I for sure at some point knew it was not just anxiety and just couldn't really handle it. If I'm completely honest, I started to just assume something was deathly wrong, and that sounds very dramatic. I don't say those types of things lightly. In about 3 months' time, I lost close to 55 pounds, and I'm 5'2", 5'3". I'm not a gigantic human being, so it was very noticeable. Being in the fitness industry also garners a lot of commentary, and whether that's fair or not, I've understood that for a very long time. When you work in the fitness industry, people feel very comfortable commenting on your body. It's something that I've accepted as reality. It's not something I think is good, but it just is. Unfortunately, that became very difficult because I couldn't keep any food down, and I knew I was losing weight. I knew everyone could tell. People were saying things to me, and I didn't have an explanation, and I'm supposed to be the bitch with the explanations. So that was tough, especially trying to help people with their own health and fitness journeys and feeling like such a fucking hypocrite. I literally thought I was dying, and I was telling people to eat broccoli. Because I couldn't keep any food down, I was vomiting for hours every single morning. I then began passing out pretty regularly, multiple times a day. And at first, it was that dizzy, like, okay, I have to sit down, and you don't really remember for a couple seconds, but I don't think I ever like went limp. And then it started to be, oh, I don't feel so good. I would sit down and I would be out for anywhere from 5 to 10 seconds. I had terrible heart palpitations. I was heat intolerant. I found I could no longer work out without vomiting. I remember I was filming with Tabata Songs, a company I've worked with for a very long time. I'm very close with the owner, and they have a phenomenal YouTube channel. They have phenomenal workout music. So essentially my job is to model the workout that he's filming. When you film a workout, you do a million different takes. You don't just do the workout one straight through. You do it from a bunch of different angles. You do it a bunch of different ways, and then it gets cut up and put together. So because of that, you're working out for 4 or 5 hours. Prior, that was no issue for me. That was pretty much my norm, especially when I was competing. That was no issue. But this particular day, I was doing not only a lighter version of the workouts I would normally do for him, I was doing more of a beginner-friendly workout. But I got about halfway through that, and I remember feeling like, am I going to fall over? Like, this is strange. And at that point, I knew that if I was going to pass out, it's not like I would drop. And I think that's part of the reason I didn't recognize it. It's not like you see on TV when you pass out. And I didn't understand that. You don't just drop out of nowhere. You feel dizzy and kind of intuitively, you just sit down. And now I've learned to kind of lie on my side, all of that stuff. But then all of a sudden, you're just sort of coming back into it. It's not this big dramatic thing. So I didn't recognize it. So I started to kind of be like, I think I have to stop. And Jay is amazing. He's the best person to possibly work with and the best person that could have been there. He was like, of course, no worries. So I remember it was cold outside. So I was going to walk towards the door and I was going to get outside and get some cold air on my face. And then I was like, I think I'm going to throw up. And I threw up for like 20 minutes and I profusely apologized to Jay. We finished filming because I insisted. And again, I thought I just had anxiety. You have to understand that I truly just thought that this was self-inflicted, I guess. And I justified a lot based on that I'm making myself anxious because I chose to have this business and I'm choosing all of these things. So my anxiety is my fault and these symptoms are my fault. And so I'm not going to not finish or not do or because it's self-inflicted. And I know that is not the best logic. I'm just truly trying to be honest. That day was really embarrassing. And I had really gotten by on not letting anybody understand that I wasn't okay because if no one acknowledged it, then I didn't have to acknowledge it. And I remember driving home from the photo shoot that day and just being like that, like little kid scared of being like, did I really fuck my body up? Like I actually have to figure this out. There were a lot of other things in there. A lot of hospital trips for random chest pains, heart palpitation. And I am not a person that scares easy. I would rather claw my own eyes out than go to an emergency room. And I was there several times. I went on quite the journey of trying to figure out all of these different things. I was eventually diagnosed with POTS. I will probably do an entire episode on my diagnosis and everything that sort of comes with that and everything I've learned. I have days where I can understand so many of my clients so much more, and maybe for not the same reasons, but truly just being unable to do it. I get it. And I feel like there's got to be something to be learned from my mistakes because I have all of this information and all of these people. I found brain tumors and blood work that doctors missed. I've helped people conceive that tried for years. I have every bit of information I could need, and I could not get a hold of my own health. And that feeling, if you've ever felt like you're not in control, if you ever felt like you couldn't get a hold of your own health, if you couldn't figure out why, if you couldn't figure out why you didn't have answers, I hope that this show can at least weed out the bullshit for you, if nothing else. These past couple years have changed my entire perspective of the fragility, I guess, of all of it. And when I get DMs or reviews about people that have improved their health, like I know looks can be deceiving and I know I look like a dumb fitness bitch. I know what I look like, okay? There are a bunch of fitness morons on the internet that really just want an excuse to talk about their own six pack. My promise to you is that I truly do not give a fuck if you have broccoli every single day, if you have a rippling six pack. I want people to feel like health is for them and that they can be their own version of healthy and fit. If you could take a moment to leave a review, nothing helps me or the show or makes me happier. So please do that. Find me on YouTube or Instagram. All of those are linked below. And be really nice to each other. You never know what anybody is going through, and have a fabulous rest of your day. Bye, guys.